Great, and we are now live on the air. So, is anybody having trouble finding that page or that survey that I just referred to? Great, thank you for helping each other. So now I can actually point to what I was talking about.
In the middle of doing the other survey.
And just look up so I can know that you're done with the survey, so I can judge how much time we need. Thank you.
Our district is going to use more Google stuff this coming year. Is this what they're going to be doing?
Yes, and I'm going to be talking about things you can, if you got that base layer of a school Google Apps domain, then you can do a lot of stuff as a teacher on top of that. So yes.
I have no idea.
Yes. So we'll start with I have no idea. That's great. All right, I see about 75% of us are done. Everybody else just kind of rush through the last few questions. All right, while the last few people are finishing up, I'm going to start talking and introducing myself, and then we're actually going to run through some of these, some actual hands-on tools. A little bit about myself. I'm a computer science teacher in New York City, and I teach at a high school for a general population of students, but that has a 4-year computer science sequence. So in New York City, you choose which high school you want to go to by ranking the schools. So students have to rank their high school choices, and it's basically a lottery. We had 1,900 people put us down for 108 spots. So it's kind of competitive, but it's not competitive in the sense that there are no test score requirements, but it is like a lottery based on your preference.
Same in San Francisco.
Same in San Francisco. Because it's preferential, and computing is still geared towards boys, we have about 75% male and 25% female ratio in our school. So that's not. So there's no recruitment that I get to do because all of my students take my classes. But there's recruitment that we try to do outside of the school with the middle schools to try to encourage more young women to put us down. So what I'm going to.
So do you hold a separate lottery for females and males to try to balance?
Unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that.
Wow.
So that's really entirely out of our hands. That's managed by the Department of Education, like this huge organization in New York City. My school works with a nonprofit educational organization called New Visions for Public Schools. And you can see one of the links that I provided is the New Visions Cloud Lab. New Visions has a team of developers that have been writing programs to automate Google Apps tools. And I'm going to talk about just a select group of them, but there's actually a whole suite that they're using to build entire school systems and even district-wide systems on the Google platform. So let me just back up a little bit and start from that. I have no idea what's going on. Google has built a suite of apps, Gmail, Google Docs, Sheets, and I'm going to assume a basic level of, I know that those things are out there, that there are these, that there are online tools that mimic a lot of the old Microsoft Office stuff. What less people know about is that Google also built a programming interface for people to access those tools programmatically and to build other programs on top of them that automate things that you would do. So if you can send an email with your mouse, and you can also send an email by writing a program and say, take all of the names from this spreadsheet and send each one of them an email, line by line, and make that an automated procedure. Or if I can take a document and I can copy that document and say, here's a copy, you're the editor, here's a copy, you're the editor, here's a copy, you're the editor, and to do it with my whole class, I would do it 30 times. Well, I can also just automate that process and have a list of 30 names and say, automatically copy this document and individually share it with every student in my class. And put it in a special folder in their Google Drive. And. I'm going to go through a bunch of the things that we can do. I'm going to focus on the computer science principles create performance task and how I administered that task last year using these tools. So we're really going to focus in on the create performance task, because I only have like an hour with you guys. The create performance task, some ways of scaffolding it using the Google Apps tools, and how we can access these automations that make it possible to efficiently distribute documents and grade them and monitor students along the way. So I use a combination of things that we're going to get into. So I'm just going to run through those things, and then I'm actually going to ask you to do it yourself. And we're going to use the data that you just submitted through that form. That'll be our class. And I'm going to run through the demo. And when I run through it, I've done this enough times that I know that I can't try to walk you through it as I'm doing it. I'm going to ask you to just let me run through it, and then we'll go back and we'll all try it together and then help each other where we're getting stuck.
That's all in the video.
All in the video?
Your video, the Hangout.
This video that we're doing right now will be something you can go back and watch. There's also a number of links here that are tutorials by other people of the exact same thing. All right. I've also had links to the Google Apps Google Plus community. The Google Plus community for this stuff is really great. There's a few thousand people from around the world that are using these things, and I go there all the time to ask questions. So whenever I'm trying to figure out, like, how could I do this? Because usually it's a combination of a little bit of spreadsheet formula magic with a little bit of an add-on or a script that's been written, and putting that together, you can solve pretty much any problem that you have in the classroom or the school. All right, let me go into the presentation. So when I go through this, I'm just emphasizing that I did it this way this year, and I'll try to point out ways that I'm going to change this next year, because this is going to be a highly iterative process as we figure out how to administer this task. Are we basically familiar with the create performance task, or should I speak for a few seconds about that? I'm basically familiar. So there's this thing called there's a performance task. It's going to be one of the major assessments. You're not allowed to help the students while you're teaching it. While you're administering it, you're not allowed to help them. So my take on that is, well, I can provide a ton of scaffolding for them before they get started. So if I give them, for example, a calendar of daily deliverables, that's not me helping them, that's just structure that's in place that we've done ahead of time. All right, so again, a little bit more about my students. They are a few grades below grade level typically. It's a general population of urban students. All underrepresented minorities, coming from all 5 boroughs in New York City. The create performance task for me was administered entirely in class, and it's a heavy writing task. You do 2 programs, one collaboratively and one individually, and then you do a pretty significant write-up for each of those 2 programs. plus a reflection that's like a reflective essay on the collaborative process. How did you work together? I scheduled it out for them and created a calendar that took up 13 class periods and a total of 39 hours. They've trimmed out some of the writing components and made them a little bit less dense, but it's still going to take a lot of class time, in-class time. Maybe you could scale this back a little bit, but it's better to allot the time in class because we don't know what students' access is at home, and we're not sure. We just want to make sure they're successful, so allotting the time in class is better. I'm going to quickly run through a number of these things and then focus in on the one, that automated document creation. So the administration of the task began with strategically choosing partners. I chose partners for my students. You may have them let them choose. They took a survey ahead of time, and then I used survey data based on what they were intending to build, like what kind of thing they were most interested in as we had gone through the class. Then creating these documents that I'm going to focus in on, individually sharing a scaffolded document where they do all of their work and where I can easily monitor them. Creating a calendar of daily deliverables that has a link for everything that I'm supposed to do or submit that day. Giving students a way to give each other feedback and then giving them a way to access that feedback. Helping them write that reflective essay by daily journaling that can just be compiled and aggregated into an essay at the end. Really takes some of the weight off of that part. Having them submit their code early. Doing group, we did like group brainstorms. So in order to, the hardest part I think about this task is not the programming, it's coming up with the idea and then figuring out can I or can I not build the idea that I have. So this class, I think CS principles in general, especially this task, is a lot more like an English class than a computer. I go to my English teacher more than I go to the AP Computer Science teacher for like how do I administer or run this. And then a project website using Google Sites is the go-to place for everything. So assume that anything I'm talking about right now is going to be dropped into a Google site so that the students always have a single place that they're always going for information. All right, so that things that are specific to the Google Apps and the Google Apps scripts, automating that document creation, and that's what we're gonna focus in on today, and what I'm gonna have you make sure that you can walk away with knowing how to do that. Setting up a Google site, I'm not going to talk about how to do that, but I think that that's so straightforward. It's just like basically creating a document. Google Sites are wonderfully easy to set up, and I was hearing some of you are already doing that. So using forms is something I'm going to talk a lot about, although I'm not going to ask us to try to do forms today, but Google Forms are extremely powerful. We use them everything from full worksheets that give students the feedback to sending email, collecting information, collecting peer feedback, and then publishing that feedback. I'm going to show you how we publish the feedback, and then automating emails that I can send to parents and advisors and students that either for grades or for a piece of feedback. Every day of the performance task, they would complete a partner survey. I'm sorry, actually, no, I'm sorry. This is the pre-survey. So this was just how I chose the partners to begin with. Then after I chose the partners, this is what my classroom looks like. It's a computer lab. This is what the website looked like at the time of the task. I've taken the point of view with the Google Sites that I kind of stripped the homepage and make a new homepage for each kind of section of the course. Other teachers will have like a standard homepage and everything's just kind of running in a list. I kind of like to transform the site into the performance task site, so that's the only thing going on for that time, and that's also pretty easy to do. This is a Google presentation that's embedded in a site. I have gone to embedding things in the sites. So when you're in your Google site, you just click Insert, and you insert a presentation or a document or a spreadsheet. You're just embedding it into the site. And I like that a lot better than natively editing the website. because the things are organized in my folders, they can be printed out, they can be shared more easily. Once it's in the site, I feel like it's kind of orphaned and it's hard to get back to. And this is really easy to update. So what I did was they have this calendar that's in their personal document, but it's also on this, each day is a slide of this presentation. So to update my website, all I do is go to the presentation and take the first slide and move it to the back of the deck. And then the website's automatically updated. That makes I think that's a nice way to edit if you're just editing your website by accessing documents as opposed to always going into the edit tools of your website. Each day it changes. This is what the task deliverables look like for each day. So it's like day 5, so they're in the middle of programming, so they're working on doing a screencast of their program, and every day they're giving each other feedback. So these are links to either tools or to the survey that they can click on the link here, or they can click on a link in the document that's been shared with them.
How do you do the video of the working program?
We used Jing, but there's just so many tools that you can use for that. It's actually, I don't have a good recommendation. There's too many different ones, and I'm just going to keep trying them and let students to also explore and find things that work for them. Google Forms can have pre-filled information. This is extremely important. This is an English teacher thing, sentence starters. If you want really high quality student feedback, you've got to give them a framework to do that. So you create your Google form, and then you say, there's a button that says get pre-filled URL. And then you enter things into the form, and then you get a URL. So if I link to that URL, when you go to that form, there's already some text in it. So this, students would do this every day for each other, but they just filled in the information around what I had written. And sometimes they'll delete the whole thing and start over, but that's only because they know what they want to say, and they're already confident, and that's fine. But for a student that may or may not give good feedback, you can really increase the level of their feedback by using a pre-filled URL.
So I thought about doing this with forms. The hard part of this is like it all goes to the same place, right? So each kid fills out this form for another kid, right? Like they're trying to give feedback to another kid.
Yep.
But then all of that feedback is dumped into one spreadsheet. So then how do you get it back out to the kid that it was targeted? That's what I struggle with.
That's a helpful segue. So by taking the back end of that, so that as we said, a Google form submits into a spreadsheet. Every question in a Google form becomes a column in a spreadsheet. And spreadsheets, along with presentations and documents, can be embedded in sites. There's 2 ways to embed a spreadsheet in a Google site: as kind of what you would normally think of as a spreadsheet, where it looks like the spreadsheet, or as what they call list view. In list view, the spreadsheet, this is a spreadsheet embedded in list view. The spreadsheet can be filtered by using a drop-down menu without affecting the filter of anyone else who's viewing that spreadsheet. So what I did was I took that spreadsheet with all of the students' feedback and just publicly posted it, which also really increases the accountability. There's no reason to keep this private or anonymous. If it needs to be private or anonymous, there's either a problem or a student's not doing what they need to do. So it's good quality feedback, completely public, in a big spreadsheet on the website. And then I'm Brandon, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to click on the drop-down, select my name, and I just have all the feedback that's my feedback. So that means that one of the questions, so you can see these are the 3 classes. First they selected what class I'm in, and then they selected the name of the person I'm leaving feedback for. These are all different pages in the form. So then there's a separate column for the student name. Then it makes it really easy for the student to go in, click their name, and then have feedback.
I would name them Loveland.
Hopper.
I appreciate that. No, that was a big miss for us, I think, this year. Fred Wilson is the venture capitalist who provided the startup funding for our school. So he's famous in our small circle. Thank you. Similarly, the individual reflection was a Google form, and this was a daily journal entry. And these questions are the performance task reflection questions. So there are 5 prompts that you respond to in the individual reflection portion of the performance task, and I just turned them into a Google form. I will not do this way this year. This is not the best way, I don't think. I will share a separate document and make it the journal document. What it means that I have to check more things, but what I did here again was I posted the back end of this form, and students would filter by their name and then copy and paste their journal entries at the end of the task to compile their essay. But that copying and pasting was not good. It's too awkward to copy and paste in that way, and it would be much easier if they were just doing this directly into a document. I think peer feedback is good to use the form and the back end and the published back end. I think that the reflection journal is not something I'll do again as a form. Yes, Brian?
Could you comment on the FERPA implications of making students use Google?
Well, we use a service called CloudLock that ensures our FERPA compliance. It scrapes through our Google Apps domain, and it reads for student ID numbers and student first and last names, and any of that has sharing you can't even do that with domain-wide sharing. So nothing that has a student ID number is allowed to have even domain-wide sharing privileges. But that's another service that does that. Google has a policy that they don't mine their educational apps. Well, the people that I'm working with that really care about that have like New York City has green-lighted this, so that's pretty big, a big comment on that. But I don't know enough to go into detail. Daily calendars with links. I'm going to skip over that so that I can show you the document, and I'll show you these things actually in the document that I share with them. I want to really highlight one trick that I did right now. So what you're looking at right now is a white-on-white document. It's a white table. There's a table in a document with a white background. After dozens and dozens of times of trying to get students to put text where I want them to in a document, and it never going where I want it to go, or I put in like a field that says delete me and type here, and then they never delete me. Make the document background gray and the table background white, and you turn your document into a web form, and students will always write in the same place. This is the single greatest innovation that I can claim personal responsibility for. This is a document. So I'm going to show you this actual document, and I'm going to share it with you. It's actually on the website. The second tab of that website that I share with you guys is this document. That is the document that I automatically shared with them, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's jump out of this and get into the nitty-gritty, because it's already 10:35. Okay. So I'm back here at the website that I shared with you. This is the bit.ly/BJC Google demo website. And I'm going to click on the second tab where it says Create Performance Task Master. There should be a link. No, oh, it pops up. Good. So I made this master document. And I'll do something similar to this next year. This is the create performance task, just taking the information from the College Board but then breaking it up into a worksheet. Using this technique of white on gray to create fields for students to submit. Also, they had this calendar that had each of the days of our class that is the same as the calendar that's on the home page, that they're going to see this lots of times. And they all have their own individual copy of this same document that has this calendar in it. On their individual document, if they click on something like Submit Program Link, it's hypertext that goes to that part of the document, of their own document. So it's a way of kind of like just getting them to the right place to do the work where they need to do it. Trying to limit how much thinking they have to do about where they need to be so that they can put all their thinking into the program and what I'm supposed to be writing about. So you can see we said insert your collaborative SNAP program link, insert your individual SNAP program link. Next year, I'm going to separate the individual and the collaborative documents. I put them all together, and then it ended up being too confusing. There should be an individual document for the individual students to do their individual work in their individual program, and then there should be a collaborative document that's shared with each of them. And the demo I'm going to do is how do you share a document so that more than one person is shared on the same document?
The students publish their work in SNAP as a rule. They want to share it. If they don't give you XML, they publish it.
Right, using the shared link. And what I got from the College Board was that that's good. There was this thing about you have to submit a zip file of your code, which is silly. For a SNAP program, you should just submit the shared link, the shared URL. Right, you can just continue to change it until they do. I guess that's a good point, Nate. Maybe that's why they want to do that. I never thought of that. They need to get us much clearer regulations about how to submit work, and they've got 2 more years to do it. So this is the document. These are just the prompts with those tables. Then there's the collaborative summary, then there's the individual summary, which is the same as the collaborative summary, but they have to write it again for their individual program. Again, using that same technique, and then finally the individual reflection. And those 5 prompts for the individual reflection were the 5 prompts that I used in that form, which next year I'm going to make a separate document for this, so that they add to that document daily. Yes, question?
Pull this straight from College Board.
Yeah, this is just the College Board description turned into a website, and then we could talk a lot about how do you teach each of these paragraphs. Every one of these paragraphs is a unit in your class. So if they say explain how your program demonstrates the effectiveness of your chosen language, you need to have looked at several languages so that they can compare and contrast. If it says demonstrate how your program illustrates a complex algorithm, you need to not only teach algorithms, but then teach the writing of algorithms. How do you describe an algorithm, and then how does this paragraph actually look? All right, I'm going to now go into taking a document and sharing it individually with students in the classroom setting.
Before you do that, could we get a copy of an example of what people actually typed into those boxes?
Yeah, this is Jaleesa and Amina. They wrote a program to teach young students how to add and subtract. We chose to explore the area in which our program teaches arithmetic to young kids. It's not for specific, like the Putting It All Together project, which is another project we did, but instead it would be a regular program.
Just a quick question. If they wanted to edit the prompt, is there anything to prevent them from doing that?
There's nothing to prevent them, and at the end I encouraged it. So here's another student. This is what I was hoping to see. This is Romaine and Kaylee, and at the end of the project, I said, okay, now clean up your document and turn it into your own work, right? Like all that scaffolding, that's just there to help you, but I want to see, and I think that when the stakes are a lot higher, when students really know that they're submitting for college credit, right? They'll do this a lot better. So only a few of my students actually did this last year. But this is a document that has been completely crafted by the student to be an individual document with the screenshots and the descriptions, and it follows the prompts, but it doesn't respond to the prompts. Actually, the College Board said at our last meeting that they're not going to require it in an essay, that they're going to allow you to leave the prompts in, so that it's just like question and answer. So they are taking the rigor down a little bit in that task. But this is that's kind of like a range of things that I got from students just submitting text. Some of it was not done. The requirements, 300 words on some of this stuff, was really hard for some students. But then some higher level students, they got that all done. All right, just because we're running out of time, I did want to just walk through that demo with you guys. So your information should be here. You can see I have your first name, your last name, and your email account. I also have a column here that says how experienced you are with the Google apps. So you submitted a 1, 2, or a 3. So I'm going to use that information to share a document with all the 1s, and share a document with all the 2s, and share a document with all the 3s. And you can run with that idea. Think about all the different ways that could help either differentiating in your classroom or scaffolding this task so that you're sharing things with partners. So let's jump into it. In Google Sheets, in the new Google Sheets product, they just transitioned between the old product and the new product. So if you have some old spreadsheets lying around, they might not have this, and you'd have to do this in a different way. But if you're in a new spreadsheet that you're just creating today, there's going to be an add-ons menu. The add-ons menu, which is between form and help, you'll click the drop-down, and you probably won't see anything there. Right? So you're going to get the add-on. And today we're going to be getting an add-on called Doctopus, which is the document octopus that can use its 8 dexterous arms to distribute documents to students. So this is the Doctopus link and the icon in the Get Add-ons store. You can see that it's created by this company called New Visions for Public Schools, and that's the organization that supports my school that I've been able to work with to develop systems for my school and for my classroom. So a lot of what I'm sharing you is just because I've been at the right place at the right time. I get to work with some really cool people that are building things specifically for schools and for teachers. So I'm installing Doctopus. On mine it's already installed, but you're just going to click on it and you have to give it permission to access your Google account. It'll now show up in your add-ons menu.
Is that across, like, everywhere? You'll always, whenever I start a spreadsheet, it's going to show. Okay.
That's right.
So it didn't start that way.
That's right. That's right.
You just have to add.
That's right. By transitioning to the add-ons, this add-ons thing is new. And the add-ons are more mature than what you used to have to do was you just installed a script. And it was very mechanical. It was very like you had to get a wrench out and work on your old Ford. It wasn't like a nice new car. The add-ons are like, I don't know, we're up to like the used car lot. We're getting more mature and newer. It's a little bit nicer, and more people are going to be able to use it because of that. On top of the add-ons showing up every time, your class roster will be remembered and show up every time. So you don't have to rebuild the list of students. There's going to be one slightly painful time when you set up your class roster, and then it will be done. You'll be all ready to just click on, section 3, and it'll have all your students. So now I'm just going to do it. I'm going to run through it, and I'm not going to slow down for trying to do it right now. I'm just going to do it. All right. So from Doctopus, I click Launch. It's not as fast as you would want for a demo. There's going to be a window that's going to interact on the side panel here. And everything is just really self-explanatory, but it helps to have somebody just say, like, well, what's happening here and what are my options? It took me a while to figure it out the first time. First, I have to select a roster. And you can see I have these different rosters that that I have for my classes or that I've done for a demo. But we're going to select Build a New Roster. If you're building a new roster, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. You can do it on the sheet itself by pasting in the usernames, or your school may have created folders for your students already. There's a really fantastic service called Teacher Dashboard by Hapara, which is a New Zealand-based company. They automatically create a folder structure for all of your students so that they have a folder for each of your students. I do recommend creating these folders for your students, and you can do folder creation, at least for your class, directly in the Doctopus tool. By creating a folder, every document that you share with them automatically goes into the class folder instead of going into the Shared With Me section, which requires students to move over documents, which is it's going to be like, oh, okay, I can't find it. So there's going to be an option that says Create Folders for My Students. If your school does not have folders created, just create them this one time using Doctopus. At least your class the students will always know where to go for your documents. If your school is doing something else, you should talk to your administrator about either using G-Class folders, which is free, or Hapara's Teacher Dashboard, which costs $4 per student. And then create a folder architecture for your school. I would highly recommend it. So we're going to build a roster on this sheet today using the data that you submitted. And I'm going to create the roster, and a new sheet is going to be created that has 3 columns: first name, last name, and email. I'm just going to go to your responses and pull the first name and last name and email columns. I'm just going to copy and paste them over. So I have now a sheet. I'll call that I'm going to refresh the sheet, and then I'm going to give it a name. Once I give it a name, I could use this again and again, but I promise not to. So this would be the BJC Google demo. I just want to make sure people can see in the back. This is the BJC Google demo roster, and that's what it'll show up in my little drop-down list of class rosters. If I click Create Class Folders, this is what I'm talking about. If I select this now, it will create this folder structure in my Google Drive. You'll have a folder that has viewing permissions for the entire class. You'll have a folder that has editing permissions for the entire class. Everyone knows that when you create a document in a folder, it inherits the permissions of that folder. So this is a very nice way. If you have a system of sharing permissions that you're always going to use, you just create things in those different folders, and you don't have to think about it. You can just always share the class on that link or post it to your website, and they can either edit it or view it depending on what you want to do. You'll then have an individual class folder for each of your students, and then they are shared on this so that it'll also be in their Google Drive. So that but I'm the owner. So because I'm the owner, anything I put in there, and they're the viewer, or they have editing privileges, they can edit whatever I put in there. Everything that we're going to create today for our classes, we own. We have owner privileges. Until we're completely done, and then we can release it and transfer it to them so they can archive their work. But for the entire time that we're either grading it or revising it, I maintain ownership and give them editing privileges. I can also take away their editing privileges while I'm grading it. Like what Nate was saying about we could do that for the College Board, where you say you can no longer edit this document, but that doesn't stop them from editing their SNAP program.
Do the students have to say, yes, I want to share each of these things?
It depends on if you're in a Google Apps domain. If you're in a Google for Education apps domain, you can do a lot of Orwellian things with student accounts. So you just put things there, which I think works very well for teenagers. Yes.
If you have a student transferring midway through the semester, adding one line to that and regenerating it
is painless. It's just one line, click refresh. Yeah.
So you just add one more line.
Yeah, add one more line and click refresh, and it will update that roster. It won't go back to old assignments, but it will do it for all new assignments.
Right, but it wouldn't affect the old assignments.
Because every assignment you're going to do is going to be in a separate spreadsheet.
Right. And then the other question, if someone usually step from it, takes it away from them.
You can just delete it from them, and then again, it'll affect all future assignments. Every time you create a new spreadsheet, that person will no longer be there. You'll just remove them from your roster.
And then so what if they switch from class to class? Like from your first period class to your fourth period class, can you just like cut and paste them? Or
If you're just doing this yourself, and you're just doing this with individual assignments, it's as simple as just add a line here or drop a line there. Personally, if I'm running the same assignment and I have 3 sections, I put them all in one spreadsheet. My spreadsheets usually have all 90 of those students, even though that when you do 90, you have to run it twice because it times out. But I still prefer to all be in the same spreadsheet than to have different spreadsheets for each section. If you do the teacher dashboard thing I was talking about, so that's school-wide, then there's a different procedure for transferring or dropping a student. Then that would be done by whoever's operating at the central level. Yes, sir.
What would you advise for the schools that have already system in place, like Schoology, what you said, or Schoolo? Schoology, I know that they integrate Google Drive into Schoology.
Yeah.
Have you had any contact with that, and what is your advice?
I have very limited experience with that, but those learning management systems are not replacing. That's not redundant at all. So you would use your Google Drive and everything I'm showing today with your learning management system. And maybe your learning management system would replace the Google Site version, the Google Site functionality. It just where everything is housed, but you would still want to create and distribute assignments in this way. Because I don't know of anything that replaces this. Although Teacher Dashboard has their tool, but I don't recommend it.
They also have assignment distribution. They have grading, and they have discussions.
Then you'll have to make that decision by evaluating the different tools. I'm going to show you, if I don't run out of time, I'm going to show you how Doctopus does matrix-based rubric grading using a web app, which I think is the best thing I've ever seen. And if there's like Google just came out with this thing called Google Classroom, which also does this document creation and grading, but it only allows for a single grade point for any one assignment. And being able to use a matrix rubric to grade an assignment, I think, is so much better. So we're hoping that Google Classroom becomes an ecosystem to pull these tools in, as opposed to trying to reinvent some of these things, because these are really powerful tools. So I want to get through this so I can show you the grading part, and then you can evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the different tools. All right, so we're going to quickly create a roster. I just said create my roster. I now need to take a document and copy and distribute that document. And you just need to think about, okay, well, what is this thing going to need to know? It's going to need to know where is the document that you're going to copy, what's the name of the document. After I make all the copies, where do you want me to put them? How do you want me to distribute them? Things like that. When you copy a document, there are a few different ways. Individual copying is the first one. That means that every student in the room is going to get a copy of a single document, and they're going to be the sole editor on that document. This is the most common form of sharing, where a student's just doing an individual assignment that they're going to get an individual grade from. You might also want to do differentiation in your class, and I'm going to try using this a lot more next year, where my document that I showed you has so much scaffolding in it, where with the calendar and all of the prompts and where you're supposed to write, but that might not be appropriate for all of my students. Maybe I want to have that heavily scaffolded version, but then a lesser scaffolded version, or maybe a student just needs a blank document and they prefer to have, they're ready to just have the prompts and a blank document, and they can format that whole thing. Differentiated allows you to have different documents for different groups that are shared individually. Project groups is what we're going to do for, this is the project groups, that's what we're going to do for the collaborate part of the task. And that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to share multiple people on a single document so they can collaboratively edit. The whole class sharing just gives whole class viewing permissions or editing permissions. That could be good if you're running an online Socratic seminar. I know teachers that do that, although I recommend a Google group for that instead. But there's different ways that you might want to have classes collaboratively edit. Collaboratively editing is also good for the brainstorming. You know, this the kind of the ideation part before they begin to create their own programs. It's helpful if they have time working together to brainstorm. I used another tool called Lucidchart, which looks like this. This is a Google Drive app that is for flowcharting and for mind mapping. This is how I did the whole class brainstorm and for teaching flowcharting. I recommend Lucidchart, or at least for checking out Lucidchart, but you could also do that just in a regular Google document. You don't need to use a fancy flowcharting one. That's called Lucidchart. Again, these things can all be things like Lucidchart. You just go to your Google Drive and you can connect all of these apps to your Google Drive, similarly to how you would connect all the different add-ons to your Google Drive. So there's lots of cool things, and every day there's like new cool things. So keep revisiting that store. Going back, I'm going to select project groups for today because I want to take that data where you said I'm either more, less, or no experience, and I want to show you how you can create documents and share them with groups of individuals. All right, so there's a couple questions here. Let me zoom in. Whole class access. Do you want there are other people in the class to be able to see what other groups are working on? This would be very good for if you have like a jigsaw style project where 4 groups may be working on 4 different parts of something and you want them to all put them together, then allow viewing access to the whole class. If it's individual, then don't. So how do you want individual members to interact with it? Do you want them to edit it? Usually you want them to edit it. That's usually the point. Whether or not they can add other people to editing is kind of important. This is like how much sharing or how worried you are about copying or how much you want them to be sharing. So they can either add people to their document or not. And the default is that that's checked that they cannot. All right. There's also this thing about the folders. And if you have created those folders, then you want to check this box so that the document is dumped into their individual folder in their Google Drive. Co-teachers is for the grading tool that I'm going to show in a minute. The grading tool can be used by multiple teachers if you put them into this step. You can't add them after. So I'm going to click Save. Now it's going to ask me about that document. And you can see that because we're using the group, the project group style, it added another column. And I'm going to copy and paste your data into that column. And then I also need to pick a document to share with you. So we'll share that. We'll make a copy of. No, I'll do something different. Okay, we're going to first say where is the document that is holding the template. So I have to go find a folder. It'll go through. You're just going to get a view of your Google Drive, and you've got to navigate it to find the thing that you're looking for. So. Sorry. I'm not a fan of this tool. There it is. And then I'm going to copy and paste those numbers that I was talking about. I'm going to go get them now, and I'm going to put them into the groups column. And I'm going to need to refresh that page so that it shows up. So now the Google Apps experience that you said, this is the spreadsheet that you submitted the form that you submitted into. So column J has whether or not you had experience with Google Apps. So I'm going to copy that column and go back to the roster, and then in that groups column, where it just gave me the dummy data, the ABC, I'm going to paste in my actual group data. So now I need to go back. I'm going to refresh, and when I refresh that, those new numbers should show up in Doctopus. So now you can see that there are 3 documents, and I have in this folder that's my workshop folder. There are 3 documents. You can see where I have my group 1 template, and these are all the documents that are in the folder where I told Octopus to look. And it'll tell you what kind of thing they are, and this is where naming your files is really important to do in a descriptive way and in an organized way when using this tool, because it can get really like, what would I call that again? Where was it again? That caused me a lot of grief at the beginning. So I'm going to say, I'm going to use my group 1 template for the 1s, my group 2 template for the 2s, my group 3 template for the 3s. These are all blank documents. So for group 1, we select group 1. For group 2, we select group 2. And for group 3, we select group 3. Now you can think about all the different ways that could happen in your classroom where you have different groups or projects. Or for the create performance task in a class of 30, you're going to have 15 groups. And it's just going to be 2 students in a group. And you'll have 15 different ones. And you might share them on individual documents. Save and continue. Here's the really cool part. Every piece of information that's in your spreadsheet can be accessed using a variable. So this convention here, like $ first name, that's saying from the first name column, pull that piece of information out. Or from the group column, pull that piece of information out. And you can use these to create the file name for your students. So say you have Sally Smith, right? And she's in group 3, then you can have a file name that says Smith, Sally, 3 create performance task. And it will be so organized for you you can see all your class all organized, and then they will have the file name all done for you. You can also use those same variables to write emails and to send emails. We're gonna keep adding on to this feature, because you can keep sending them emails throughout the whole time you're running the assignment. So I might say, hi, first name, right? I've shared you on, maybe you have a column called document name, right? So you can really quickly send feedback by just if you write one sentence into a column of your spreadsheet, then you create a personalized email without having to write the whole email. And you just go down the list writing one sentence of individual feedback and dump it into a template, and you just sent out 100 students of individual feedback. You can also copy, you could have a column, and I'll show you this if you want, but I'm going to run out of time, but you can have other column data like their school advisor or their parent or their project partner. You can copy that, right? You can keep a lot of people in the loop really easily. So that's all we need, except I forgot to say, where will these documents go? So once you create documents and share them so say you have 30 students that you create individual documents, you now have 30 documents, and you have to find a home for them. So I'm just going to click create a new folder to hold on to them, but you may have a folder where you specifically want those documents to live. So I'll now create a new folder. A new folder will be created in my Google Drive, and then all of these documents that I'm about to create will then go. And it shows you where it is. It dumped it into the root folder. So if I want it somewhere else, I have to move that now. Save and continue, and that's the last step. It gives me one last chance to check it and then to pull the trigger and run. So look over what you're doing, especially if you're doing a large share, because it takes time. It takes about 8 seconds per share, so it's not fast. So to do 100 students, you're taking up you're taking up a few minutes of runtime, and for a very long run, you have to hit it again because it'll give you a timeout message. So it's not like super enterprise software, but you can do a lot of powerful things. Just be careful and ready.
So the advantage of keeping them together must outweigh the runtime.
I think it does. Like I do because I'll show. And so let me show you. So now these are getting shared, and we'll just like kind of watch it for a second to see like what does it look like. These new columns are created, and then the documents will start to populate each row as they are created. It'll then paste all the information in. So Astra should have a document. She should have just received an email. Edwin should just have received an email, right? All of these, and then one by one, these people will go. Now we're going to leave this and let's let it run in the background. But this is what it looks like to share a document. This is about how fast it works. So let's go look at a document already in progress, or a document that's already been created. This is like a cooking show. I've got this thing already cooked. I'm going to show you.
And you can get to any document that you've shared as well from your folder tree?
From my folder tree, but I never do that because it's here. Because I go to the spreadsheet, and then anything, because the only time I would access it is if I was grading it or wanted to give feedback to it, and I'm going to put that feedback or that grade into the spreadsheet. So here is a class. This is my 90 student class that's been shared. You can see that they have this is the folder. This information is the name of the location of their individual folder, so that those documents were getting dumped into their folders. And you can add grade data. So this is what I did not use this for grading, but I'll show you how you could. So if you click on a student, let's open him up. We can attach a rubric tool to this, and let's see if this pops up. You see this little web app that's showing up on in my URL bar? This is a web app that works together with the Doctopus tool, and I'm going to click on it. Oh, you know what happened? Did I sign into? If you sign into more than one account, it creates problems. So what we're going to do is wait until this is done running. Oh, this has got a hiccup in it. This is running very slowly. Usually this is faster. Now there it goes. So at the end of all of this, it'll say attach a rubric. Like it'll say it right here. It'll be really obvious. Attach a rubric, and then you choose the rubric, and it shows you how you have to format it. And then when I click on that tool, it'll drop down for each individual document, and then you grade it in the tool. It just looks like a matrix, and I'll get it working in a second. But it looks like a matrix rubric, and you just say like 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then it pastes that rubric into the student's document. It emails it to the student, and it populates these columns in your document. So here's one that I did do, this one. So you can see that this document has been populated with grading data that I just did by looking at the student document, clicking on the rubric, and then clicking submit, and then looking at the next document, clicking on the rubric, and clicking submit. And then it gives me all this, and then you can do the other things where I have advisors' names, and I have advisors' emails, and I'm sending out automated emails and things like that. Questions?
Two questions. What's the name of that tool?
This is called Gubrick. Gubrick, which is a Google Chrome web extension, and it's a web app that you have to enable. When you click on, let me see if we're here. The instructions are really clear, and I'm going to stop now so that people can try to set this up. So what I'm hoping that people would do now is that I'm going to share you on this spreadsheet, and that you make a copy of it, and then you try a run of Doctopus yourself. Unless I have gone over time, but I was hoping that you would get a chance to try it out. Yeah.
This is good. I can see this being useful if you're giving a document for them to change. What if you just have an assignment and they're submitting dozens of assignments.
That's a whole other presentation. So just quickly to answer that, so here's my class website, and there's two different ways to do that. I use a single form for my daily Snap assignments. I have a single form that looks like this, and they choose their name, they choose their class, they choose their name for their class, and they choose what assignment they're submitting. So you can see these are BJC labs that they can say I'm submitting for that, and then submit the URL of your Snap program, and then maybe a reflection. And then that goes into another spreadsheet, which is here. So that spreadsheet goes into this big thing. So now, again, this is the same problem. When you use a single form to submit a lot of information, you'll have thousands of rows of information, and it's not organized. So what I do is create a gradebook sheet, and using a couple of really important formulas: filter, sort, and index. You can create a gradebook sheet that filters each assignment into its own column. You sort it by timestamp and then pull the top one off of that array. You then have a gradebook that's updated with the most recent submissions for any one assignment. I thought that was the best thing, even though it's not letting me show you. But there it is. So this is a gradebook. You can see how this is the formula. It looks like a really gobbledygook formula, but just look at the functions at the beginning. It's just a filter wrapped by a sort that's then where you pull the top thing off of that sort, and then give myself a little error message if they didn't submit.
Do you use Bloomberg with this?
I don't use Google with this because Google is not good for this. Google only works on documents. So if they're just submitting Snap programs directly into a form, then I'm just working directly with the Snap. So here's the URL is getting filtered in, and then I'm grading that, or maybe I'm giving it feedback, and then I can automate the email of a sentence of feedback along with a grade. The other way that we do this at our school, it looks like this. The other way to do that is that you create an individual form submission for each assignment. And the BJC, there was enough of the small submissions where it was just like it's not a huge assignment. It's like just show me that you did it, and I can just kind of keep you accountable for having done it. That worked well for a single form that I just filter into columns. For a more elaborate assignment that maybe a 2-week or a 1-week thing, we use individual form submissions where students have to kind of check off that they've done the requirements for that submission. They submit a URL. This is for our freshman class where they're submitting Scratch projects. And we did longer, more extended projects where the students were tweaking lots of things within them. But the same thing, having a reflection on there. And just putting their biographical information. So let me show you guys on this. And I think the sharing, looks like the sharing's done. So hopefully you all received an email. You should have received an email and then that email should link you to other people that put that same piece of information. So you could use that document today as a way to chat with each other on any questions you have while you're trying to run this yourself. Oh, is that right? It didn't really work. Okay. Okay. It could be glitchy. Works very well with the individual things. And here, just to show you, this is now that it's done with the run. Here's the attach Kubrick option that shows up after the run is over. So you'll just click just click on this, read the instructions, follow the links to the help, and it'll pull up.
On the rubric, we talked a little bit about maybe peer grading. Is that possible, where you don't have to go and fill in the rubric for each one, but you have students do that?
No, not with the rubric. I would use Google Form for that. So they would share. You would send out. You can automate an email that would send out maybe 5 projects, and then they have to grade those projects against the rubric. But this use a form submission, and you build a form that has different rubric options on it. Maybe using a scale question where they have to select 1 through 5 for each one. This is what Tiffany does in her class. So but rubric is only for teachers, because you can only have you would have a huge list of people that have privileges, and you don't want that. Okay, why don't we, unless we have to go on to the next section, why don't we take 10 minutes to try to run try our own run of this. So I'm going to make this. So I'm going to make a new link for this. This is called BJC demo data. So if you go to bit.ly/BJC demo data, you should be able to make a copy of the spreadsheet that we've been using. And you got practice sending each other some emails and sending each other a document. We'll just kind of walk through the steps.
So I used the G-class folders last time. I like
G-class folders, yeah.
I like the periods. So if I was going to do this with this year with Octopus, should I use G-class folders? Because I like how it's separated.
You should continue to use G-class folders. Yeah, you shouldn't change it. There's nothing better unless your school pays for teacher dashboard. If it's not that expensive. You know, it is a little bit expensive, but not that.
We can't do anything in spreadsheet. It's not possible.
Can you? Does it let you view it?
We can view it, but you can't run it.
So when you good. So that's good. So from the file menu, select make a copy, and make your own copy, and then do your own practicing in your own copy.
I wonder, the names, did you specify the names that are on the form or something with
Did I specify something?
Yeah,
so the email didn't really work. The name in the email is not your name. Okay. I think we heard that that's a glitch. It works perfectly for the individual share. Oh, the first name of each group maybe. Yeah, you might not want to do that. Don't do the first name thing. It works for the individual sharing. It works perfectly.
In your form, you had something that said, "We think you're this, you're not this." Is that using the percent email, percent username, or something?
We think you are. So when I use, yeah, I always make it. Yeah, I always say collect usernames. Yeah. I do both. I always have the students select their own name and collect their username. So they have to log in to submit the form, and then there's because there's always somebody that did it wrong or didn't log out, or so you look for a correlation, and if that's what then you can figure out what happened.
I've never seen. I've done forms.
Do you have a Google Apps domain? So if your school needs a Google Apps for Education domain, and then you're allowed to collect their usernames.
How do we check it for email?
Well, it should have sent an email. It should have sent an. If you didn't get it, is it possible that your name didn't end up in? What's your last name?
Burns. Yeah, Burns. I don't see just from looking. Alvin is first name.
You know what it was? This is not like the master list of people here. This was a survey that people submitted at the beginning of class. If you didn't submit that, don't worry. This was just I just sent you a blank document. So what I think we should do now is go to the bit.ly/BJC demo data, and you can get you'll get a copy of the spreadsheet, and you can practice going through that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. Right in the middle, Grace Cathedral is where this comes, and it had so, and it was, you just had to say, I'd like to go.
It's going well. I wanted them to practice, so they're both practicing now, so you can stop them.
I ended up winning it.
And then we went to 30.
Oh my gosh!
Perfect. Yeah, 10 minutes. Yeah, perfect.
But they did allow
I used these all last year. I used Dr. Bliss and G class.